Hello traders and welcome to the Advanced Dashboard Masterclass series. This is Hurin Amin. In today's masterclass, we are going to be covering how to view the markets on Advanced Dashboard. We'll be showing you how to look at it at a top level first, comparing different indices and seeing the information relevant to them. And then in the second half, we're going to look at how to build watch lists and customize it according to the preference that you have and with the symbols that you want to look at and monitor. So let's get started with first and how to look at the markets. So what we're going to do when we're on Advanced Dashboard is there's two ways we can do it. There is a preset built that will show on how you can add the markets as a widget. And then we can also build ours. We're going to start with building our own custom one. So we're going to come up to our layouts up at the top where the tab is, click on the plus sign, and then select the layout. Now you can choose any layout or you can refer back to our masterclass on which we showed how to customize if you're not sure which layout to choose. We're going to go with the desktop view over here and start with that. Now, of course, I'm going to call this simply markets. That's what we're looking for, and this is where I want to land every time I do come on dashboard, so I know what it is. And we're going to click on add layout. Now, we're going to have to add the widgets into our new layout page here, and you can see the title cards at the top over here that where the widgets are housed. And the one for the markets are generally going to be housed under the news and markets category over here. You can see there's a whole bunch of them. So let's go ahead and start adding some of them. So start with, we're going to add markets to begin with, simply. Now, when we're on the desktop view, of course, you are going to be able to size it and format it in the way you want, just like a desktop you would. So let's just go and resize this, and we're going to set up a column view where we're going to have two columns here, and we're going to just drag it up here and portion it out there. Now, in the second half, I'm going to go back to the news and markets category here. And so what we're going to choose from here is we're going to add the news widget. So let's add this, and let's size this up again over here so we can plop it up next to the other side over there. So let me go here. And there we go, drag it, and we're going to then go ahead and drop it over here. All right, so from here, and I'm just going to get it to maximize the space that we have on the screen. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is let's go and add a few more here. So we're going to add the most active on the markets. And we're also going to add the gainers and losers. Now, you'll notice that everything is just kind of overlaying on top of each other. And I'm going to create a tabbed view here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it over to the news and drop it. And you can see now we've created a sub-tab view over here. Let's do the same with the most active and drag it and drop it. So now what I have is I have the markets in full view on the left. And on the right side, I've created separate windows or tabs now to be able to pan through it because this is not something I need to have in view all the time. Now, you can, of course, choose to have it differently or have a dedicated window where you do have that. From here, what I wanted to show you is on the markets. Let's focus on the markets widget here and go through that and show you some of the controls you have on there. So this is where you're going to be able to essentially keep a pulse on the markets, both on the Canadian side as well as the US side. So you can actually partition it, and you can see up here in the configuration bar, we are on the market category and we're set up to all indices. So within the all indices, you can see there's the Canadian indexes, and there are going to be flags as well that to inform you which one it is. So we have the composite, the TSX 60, the venture exchange, and then we have another sub index there, along with the major US indexes, the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the OEX, which is the S&P 100 as well, showing there. So from here, you can choose to either see them just individually. So if we go to the drop-down configuration and let's say we want to look at just the US ones, we can do that. And similarly, we can do the Canadian ones. But along with that, we can also then monitor at a more deeper level, going to the sectors. And so within here, we can now see the individual sectors within each different respective markets there. Now, what you're also going to find within the sectors, which is interesting, is let's say we're on this first one at the top that says Canadian Consumer Discretionary Sector. There's a little arrow over here we can actually click on. And what this does is it loads up the major stocks that are part of this sector. So if you're wondering what is this discretionary sector at all, you can always click on that, and that's going to inform you as to which stocks are pretty much under the consumer discretionary sector. So in a similar way, you'll be able to expand this arrow on each of them and see which one they are. Now, if we go back to the indice level view for a second, so if I go back and let's just harp on the US indices for a second, and let's open up the Dow Jones. This is made up of the 30 largest industrial companies in the US, and click on that. You'll see over here we got 30 of the largest US companies housed here, and you'll see this list is constantly updated if there are any changes made within that index of these securities there. So that's one way you can kind of look and peer a little bit at a deeper level into the indices and within the various sectors. Now, what you also have along the markets bar is you have this advance and decline issue as well. So it tells you which positions, or the overall market in this case, which one is green or down for the day, or red. In this case, across the US board on a day like today, it is green across the board. So this will help you keep a tab as to the, well, simply the advancer and decliners on a given market day. Now, along with this, you also have the ability to sort this information and actually send some information if you want to, let's say, for example, see some news on one of these indexes. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our widgets. So I'm going to go up here where you see this rectangular bar, and we're going to want to send some information over to the other widget on the other side. And I'm going to choose any color here, doesn't matter, but in this case, we're going to choose the orange color. And we're going to sync that color up on the other side on the news widget. And we come up here and hover. We can click on this, and we're going to choose to receive that information. So now what you'll notice is, let's say I want to get some news on the S&P or the Dow Jones companies. And if I simply click on it now, you'll notice on the other side what we have happening is it's put the Dow Jones symbol up here in the box, and it's going to load up any market-related news related, well, to the Dow Jones index or its constituents in there that you have. So in a similar way, you could do it for each respective index. If I just simply click, it's going to automatically populate in the other widget there for me. Now, if we go back again to the Canadian one, we can do the same thing. If we go back to our Canadian indices, let's say we want to see some news on the Toronto Stock Exchange stocks, well, we come here and you can see some of the major headlines making news out today here. Now, within here, we also have the ability to, and let's switch gears for a moment and look at the news tab itself. Now, we did put specific symbols in here, so you can put, of course, indexes. If you want a specific stock, you're able to, plop that symbol in there and have that loaded up. So let's just say, for example, I wanted to see both the Toronto Stock Exchange news as well as the Dow Jones. Well, I can simply come in here, follow the symbology nomenclature that they have for it, and we're just going to pop that in with .djia, and you can see the smart search shows up for us, and click on that. So now what I have is I have the Dow Jones, we got an extra one inserted in there, as well as the Toronto Stock Exchange news, both kind of amalgamated together here. So you can add as many different symbols, and you can kind of consolidate all the news into one rather than looking at it in parcels there. Within here as well, within the news widget, let's go ahead for a second. I'm going to remove the symbols. Let's just say you have certain categories of news that you want to look at. So I can sort the news out based on topics as well. So within the topics section, you can see there's a whole bunch of different categories here across market. They have securities category, industrials. So there's pretty much an exhaustive list over here. But let's say I go back up to the security section over here, and maybe I want to see, hot stocks, for example, that's up here. So let's go ahead and click on this for a second, and you'll see that populates in the topic bar. Now I can get rid of all because I just want to kind of focus my news on just the hot stocks. And so from here, well, we can see some of the major headlines or the ones that are making really a buzz, so to speak, in the markets here today. So you can also sort it by topic. And again, it's not just a single topic you can add. You can add multiple different topics, but keep in mind it might get a little bit busy to view that. So that is another neat feature that we have when kind of keeping tabs on the market. Now, along with this, and we'll cover this in a little bit more detail when we get to our next section, but we are able to also filter just based on our watch list that we've built and see the news specifically on just those stocks. And so you can simply click in the filter list at that point. And if you go to your watch list dropdown, you'll see a number of your different watch lists that you have, and you can just select that and see what news is popping up related to that watch list. And again, we'll get into more detail with that in just the next segment. So let's check this off for a moment. The other thing that we also wanted to mention over here, and if we go back for a second, is you can add the settings in terms of how you want to view that news layout. So what I mean by that is, for example, there's an article up here, and you might be wondering, well, where is it? Well, it's actually housed down here at the moment. I can adjust where the news actual detail shows up over here. If I scroll down, and I can see the full little synopsis of that article. You can also go back to the hamburger menu and choose a different news layout if you wish. So if I go to the news layout here, and I'm going to choose a vertical I can choose to have it right beside each other. And again, I can adjust the bar over here to see it a little bit better there. And additionally, the last one that's available as a function over here, if we go to news layout, is a pop-up. So you can, if we choose the pop-up, for example, you'll just see the headlines. And if I click on something, it'll open up as a separate window on its own so I can read it. So again, this way I'm not having to scroll and move up and down if I'm challenged for a little bit of real estate on the platform there. Let's go ahead and close this window down for a second. Now, moving on from that, the other widget that traders would probably like to have is also keeping tabs on which kind of positions or stocks are making the big moves in a given market day. So by big moves, it's either going to be those gainers or losers on the day. And you can see over here, we've got a number of different controls, again, we can control. So right now we're focused and by default, we're on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And we're looking at the all-day interval. So if you want to look at it based on specific interval times, you can. Like if I just want to look over the last 60 minutes, which ones have been kind of making a move, well, I can look at that. But if I'm looking at a total day, that's going to capture the market open until the current time that you are viewing this at. You can also choose the number of stocks that get displayed. The default will be 10. You can choose up to 20 to show up there. If we choose that, you can see that we've got a few more, and we can just scroll and see those sections. And if I scroll down, I can see the loser section as well there. All right. So apart from that, what we can also display is the order on which they show up. So right now we have gainers and losers. Maybe you want to switch that order around and have the losers show up at the top and the gainers at the bottom. So you can also configure that for yourself. Now, wherever you see data related to stocks, and we covered this in a bit of our customization, you have the ability to change the information that you see displayed over here. And you can simply go into the template over here and see, we can see the current default is stocks basics, which is showing us, and I can scroll across the bar, you can see what kind of information gets displayed under the basic. And if I kind of switch that over to full, well, under the full configuration, you can see the scrolls, it's providing me a lot more details over here now on what I wanted to observe. Now, keep in mind always that because we're working in this space and it might seem challenging to see all that information, you can always go full screen. So if we go into maximize our widget, well, now we can see it in full screen at any time, and then you can simply minimize it back again to get to the original view. So don't forget to do that if it is a bit challenging to see what's up there. So that's a little bit about the gainers and losers. Now, one thing we did also forget to mention was you can look through different and various indices major across the markets here. So if we wanted to see, for example, on the major exchanges, I should say, that's where the losers and gainers are. Let's say on the NASDAQ, for example, we wanted to see which are the biggest gainers and losers. Well, you're going to see that also separated over here. All right, so that's a little bit about the gainers and losers. Let's move on to the most active screen over here, then this widget. So on this widget, of course, is telling you the most active based on really the volume or the number of trades that are being completed here. And you can see again, by default, it's set up to the TSX. We can choose between these various exchanges once again. That you can choose from. But also the criteria, as I mentioned, it's sorted by the number of trades right now. But if you want to do it based on purely volume, well, that number is going to look a little bit different. It'll sort it based on volume. And again, similar to how you have the scroll function, you can look across there. And maybe it's better to just go full screen on this one, and we can see all the relevant data that we want on that template. Now, again, the template, similar to just the gainers and losers, we can come in here and we can see it under these various different categories. And don't forget, this is something that can be customized. So if you did want to customize this, you can come up here to the hamburger menu. You can go to where it says Manage Templates, and we'll look at this on the watch list. But you can come in here and you can create your own custom one. So I can simply click on New over here. Let's say I want to label it, and I just want to see, I'm going to call this Stocks Default. All right, so this is going to be my view, and I'll hit Save. And what it does is, by default, it's going to at least get you started off with the ticker code and the country on there. And then from there, well, you can add a number of these different things that are going to be impactful for you when you're doing your analysis there. So let's say we want to look at average volume over 6 months. Maybe we'll throw in the bid and the ask and the bid as well. And then, of course, you will be able to resort this order. And I'll just add one more, the day high and low. We'll throw that in just for our demonstration purposes. And also display name is always a good one to have there. Now, once you have it in this, you are able to rejig the order there. So I can simply say if I want my display order to be right next to the ticker code, ticker name, for example, then I can reposition it there. And we can also reposition it within the list, and we'll look at that in a moment. So once you have that, you'll see it's under custom. You can choose to set this up as a default. So I'm going to say use this as the default. So whenever I come on this widget, this is what's going to show up. Let's go ahead and close this for a second. And now you can see if we go back to our template and we go to stocks default and we load it up, where it has those same parameters there. Now, as I mentioned, we could rejig the order within the template itself, but you can also just drag the columns and drop it wherever you want. So maybe if I want the high next to the average volume here and I want the low there, I'm simply dragging and dropping those columns and placing them where they need to go there. All right. So this is the widget for looking at the most active. And for this part, this is a little bit of the macro view on the markets, looking at the indices. Our next segment, we're going to look at it based on particular securities by building a watch list and how you can monitor them and analyze them. All right. So in this segment, we're going to be able to build a platform in a way that you can watch the securities and analyze them for your own self using the watch list widget. And we'll look at some other neat widgets that go along with that as well. So let's start off by building a new layout to separate it out. So we're going to go back to adding our workspace. In this case, again, we're going to go back to, let's do the desktop here. And this one, I'm going to call it Market Watch. All right. So let's label this Market Watch here. And let's go to Add Layout. So you can see, again, it pops up at the top in the tab. Again, remember, you can rearrange these tabs and position where you want, but we're just going to leave it where it defaults at the end of the page there. So from here in this view, what I want to do, and for our traders, is we want to build a particular watch list that we want to monitor the markets with. And so from here, what we're going to start with is go under the trading category. And under here, we're going to choose the watch list widget. So let's go ahead and click on this. Now, when the watch list widget pops up, what it's going to ask you to either do is choose a specific watch list if you already have one, or you can start by building up a new watch list. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're just going to call this our demo list. And let's go ahead and create this. Now, what you have is just a blank window. And so now we've got to start adding our symbols on the watch list. Pretty straightforward to do at this point. So what I'm going to do, just to dedicate more space, let's enlarge this and take up the whole room. You can go to the symbol box over here to get you kicked off. And let's say we want to add some of the tech companies in here. So let's say we're going to start with Apple. And when you do the smart search, again, remember, it does show you those results. So just click on that. And you can simply also just type in the name of the company. So we've got Apple in there. Let's go ahead and add Tesla. And select, and we'll go ahead and add semiconductor NVIDIA in there. And just for good measure, let's add in one more, and we'll add in Google. All right. So we got 5 to start us off with. You can build a number of these lists as you want with any number of different securities within that list. And not only that, but you'll be able to group these securities according to sectors or however way you want to do so. And we're going to show you how to do that next. So once I've started my list, what I wanted to show everyone is, let's say I want to separate my list out and group them. Are you able to do that? And absolutely you are in Advanced Dashboard. So what we can do is, let's say, starting off at the top with Apple, I'm going to just click on this kind of menu that it has off to the side here. Now, within this menu, it does allow you to open up the buy and sell order entry ticket tools. That's on the top half of the section. And then at the bottom is where I want everyone to draw everyone's attention to, is we can choose a group. And if I say move to group, you can see there's no groups currently. So we're going to go ahead and create one. And let's go ahead and create this group over here. And what we're going to call this is just tech. All right, we're going to call these some of the tech companies we're going to throw in there. Let's go ahead and save. Now, what you'll notice is it's going to create that header at the top. It's creating this sort of menu. And right now, Apple's the only one that's in there. So what if we want to add some other ones and follow them in the group? So let's say we want to put Google in that group. Well, I can simply click on this menu again, go to the bottom and say, go to move to group, and then select tech there. So now I have these two grouped under tech. And again, if I minimize the tech group, it's still as part of my watch list, but I'm just kind of streamlining it a bit better to view it, as especially so if you have many different symbols within here. So in this way, you can create a number of these different groups as you go along and build up that watch list. Now, along with the watch list as well, let's for a moment again show you that the controls up here. So what you'll notice is you can continue adding symbols to continue building that list up here. You can also add it at the bottom over here. So let's add in another one. Let's throw in Meta, and we'll go and put that in for a second, and you can see I've done it through this format as well, which is also the same as doing it using the symbol box. Along here, you'll find if you want to separate them based on these different lists, and you can see if I'm going to click this, we have a number of these different lists that we've started. So let's look at the Dow Jones members, for example. We have that list shown up over here, and you can see that. And this is how you're going to sort and sift through your different lists of watch lists that you have on the Advanced Dashboard platform. Now, alongside that is our template selector, and within here again, similar to what we did on the gainers and losers and the most active, we can choose different data that we want to see with the watch list. So we're under the basic view right now. Let's say I want to see the fundamentals, for example, and that's going to give me fundamental related information. These are stock ones that are built for you on the templates. However, you can create your own custom ones. So you can see, for example, there's Hiren's view. Let's load that up. I don't know how much is in there, but there we go. So this is one I've customized from a previous time, and that's also loadable over here. Now within here, you can go back to this hamburger menu in the top left corner, click on where it says manage those templates, and here's again just a reminder where you can build those custom templates. So just don't forget to hit the new here, and then once you do that, it's all about just adding those different available columns that are displayed here, and then organizing the way you want, and it simply automatically saves. There's no actual saving button you need to do. Just click off of the box, close it off, and then go back to your template selector, and you should see that new custom view being displayed there for you. All right, from here, also similar to what we had in the other one, we have an advanced decline bar that shows at the top. Now, if you find this is too distracting for you at the top, this performance bar, you'd rather just not have that, you can go back to the hamburger menu and just hide it away, so it's not being displayed there any longer. So it is something that you can either choose to display or have it hidden away there. So we're going to just have it, for the purpose of our demonstration, have it displayed over here. Now from here, what I want to do is that maybe I want to peer more into or learn more about some of these companies that I have on my watch list, and we're going to add a few more widgets. So what I'm going to do is we're going to minimize this again, and we're going to just resize and build this layout here. So let me resize it in kind of the way we did it with the markets view, and just kind of take that 2-column view. So let's kind of split this up into halfway into the screen. And let's go ahead and add our widgets here. We're going to add some of the similar widgets that we had before. So again, we're going to add news on this one. So let's size it up, and we'll go ahead and put that on the right-hand side over here. Let's get it sized up just a little bit more. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and add 2 more widgets over here that I wanted to introduce everyone to. So let's go ahead and do that. And that is going to be, again, under the news and markets category. This one's the heat map. So let's go ahead and add the heat map in. Now what you'll notice is it just, again, overlays here. And I want to show everyone there's a better way to organize it if you don't want to manually do it. It kind of let the system choose for itself. So let's go under the menu over here under Market Watch. And you can see there's a tile and fill option. So if I do tile and fill, what it's doing is it's just inserting the heat map at the bottom and just kind of using that space up here. Now, of course, you can create a tabbed view as well. We'll do that, but for the time being, we're going to leave it here, and we'll explore that in a second. So what the heat map does, and let's go ahead and enlarge it. I'm going to go to the maximize icon, and let's open it up and show it in full view. So within the heat map, essentially, it's just a visual of the market. So you can see currently on the heat map, some of the settings that we have available to us is the index and sector we want to look at. So we're looking at the TSX right now. And within the TSX, you'll see all the different stocks or constituents, and they're categorized according to the sectors that they fall under. So energy, we have basic materials, we have technology, industrials, financials, etc. You can see all of them there. And within each of them, it kind of color codes the tiles according to how the performance is for the day. So the next setting that we have is it's organized by performance, but I can actually click in this drop down, and there's various different ways I can choose to analyze or view that market. We've done it by performance. Let's say we do a 1-year performance if we want to see how that's reflecting. And now this will give us a better sense of the overall performance on a 1-year scale. You can do it based on volume. So let's look at traded volume today, which is the highest traded volume. And you can see again in the financials, MFC is the one that's leading. That's Manulife Financial. and again, under fundamentals, various categories. So it gives you really a flexibility of viewing it in a visual form according to various data points that you might want to look at. Now, the other thing that you might be wondering is how are the tile cards sized up? All right. So let's go back to performance here for a second for the day. And you might be thinking, well, why is, well, we know that the color coding, first of all, is based on the performance. So there's a scaling. The brighter the red it is, the further down it is on the market compared to the brighter greens are higher up in the market for the day. But the tile cards can be also sized according to volume. So we can see not only is BIR down for the day, but it's holding a decent amount of volume as well there. So we can choose to change that over here if we go to the sizing option and say, okay, let's organize it by market capitalization instead versus volume. So now if I come in, I want to see, well, okay, which is the performing stocks and which is the biggest or largest market cap on the market today? Well, you'll come in here and you can see one that kind of sticks out is technology under Shopify. And then also under the financial section, we have RY as well. That's a pretty big tile card. So that really gives us a visual of market capitalization at a quick glance rather than look at the hard numbers there. Now, what you're also able to do from here is if you want to click on the data, you can actually click on it and you can see it'll summarize that information if I want to look at those actual hard numbers. So you can see if I see RY is a pretty big card, but I want to find out exactly what that number is. Well, it can show you right there, 163 billion. Showed it, and it's also showing you the total traded volume today as well that is being displayed. So simply clicking on any of these tile cards will give you some more detailed empirical numbers there. Now, along with that, we have that sorting function. So we looked at trading volume. So again, you have some of those same parameters you can sort everything by. So everything is kind of organized. If we do it alphabetically, for example, well, it's going to, within each respective sector, it's alphabetically organizing it. But if we're doing it simply based on volume, which is what traders usually want to look at, then we can see based on volume which ones are the leaders there in the space. So if I go into financials, for example, I can see volume here today traded 4 million. If I look at Royal Bank, for example, they're a little bit lower than that at 921,000 and change. So that's what the sorting function is. It really tells us how we want to have the different securities displayed within the respective sectors there. Now, let's say you don't want to even group it by sectors. You just want to see overall on the TSX. Well, we can choose none. Okay, so if I do none now, and what it's showing me now is if I go from the top left, this is the highest traded volume, is the 4 million. And then if I go down to E and B, they're about 3 million, etc. And you keep on going across. Down to the bottom right, we'll see not a whole lot happening on CSU Constellation Software. So you can choose to turn off the sector grouping as well there. So let's turn it back on for a second. That's just some of your settings on the heat map. So a fantastic way to look at the market. Now, not only that, but if you come into the index sector, what you're going to find is in this drop down is we have, of course, our major Canadian indices along with the different respective sectors. But if you scroll to the bottom, we also have our different watch lists you can see in a visual form. So let's look over here and let's say I've started an auto list, an auto manufacturers list, and you can see all these are major auto manufacturers that trade in the North American markets. And again, we can see based on the watch list that we've created and same data information, we can analyze it or adjust it as we need there. All right. That's a little bit about the watch list there and some of the settings you can use. So again, a fantastic tool to, rather than looking at the actual numbers, you can look at it in a visual format when you're trying to observe the markets there. So let's slim this down for a second. We'll position that back in. Let's go ahead and observe the news on the markets that we want to look at. So very similar to how we did it when we were just looking at the overall markets. What we're going to do is we're going to link them all together. So if I go back to the watch list, I'm going to choose channel 2 and I'm going to choose to send it from channel 2 over here. And across on the widgets one, when I open that up, I'm choosing to receive that information over. So from here, let's blow this up a little bit. Let's say I want to find some news, and if I open up the Dow Jones companies, for example, let's say I want to click on Boeing. Let's click on Boeing. If we go minimize back for a second, what you'll notice is, let's open up the news widget here. Boeing's automatically being populated up in here, and it's giving me all the news related to Boeing. And so you can see some of the headlines. It's time and date stamped over here, so you can shuffle and organize it there. And also, I can also simply choose the way the pane we displayed. If we go to the hamburger menu, once again, You are able to choose the layout if you want it vertically organized. I do like the vertical one a lot. It shows me the title of the article as well as the article if I do choose to click on it and go through it there. All right. So again, a great way. So don't forget that linking setting, which allows you to do that. Now, since we are on the watch list, it can become kind of cumbersome to look at it on an individual basis. So is there a better way to just see all the news related to my watch list? And yes, there absolutely is. Let's go ahead and remove Boeing for a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the filter here. And we're going to go to our watch list and we're going to select autos. That was the one of the lists we built, auto manufacturers. So now I'm going to find every news related to the auto manufacturers. So if I go back here for a second, you can see, let's switch this list and align it up to those autos. So within here, you can see all the different auto manufacturers and all the news that's going to show up related to that by simply, let's open this up again, choosing the filter. So turn the filter on, and that's going to allow you to access news specific to the symbols that you're watching there. All right, so that's a little bit about the news. We covered the heat map. What else is there to see the markets? Okay, let's go to another widget we're going to introduce, and let's go to news and markets. And within here, we are going to show you the bubble chart. Okay, so let's drop the bubble chart in. I'm going to just have it automatically organized, tile and fill, to take up the little quadrant on the bottom right corner here. So what is the bubble chart? Let's blow this up for a bit. So what the bubble chart essentially is it allows you to measure according to various different metrics, and you're going to see some of those metrics over here. So first things first, you want to see what data set or what securities or companies you want to analyze. So if you go to the index list again, you'll find the major indexes. So let's say we want to look at the TSX 60, which is the default. Well, you got that. So this is all the TSX 60 companies that are listed over here. And well, now what do we want to measure it against? So now if you come to the x-axis, and again, that's going to be on this horizontal bar. Let's see, we can either do it by rank. We want to rank them, or we want to organize it by performance. We can have them sifted that way. It's going to be very much similar to the metrics that you have on the heat map that we just looked at. You can look some fundamental data. Let's just see on a revenue standpoint. Let's go to the valuation, or let's go to the fundamentals category here and see if we can look at it purely on a revenue standpoint and see if we can find this here. Let's just, sales. That's what we want for revenue. Let's organize it this way. So I've got it organized based on sales at the moment. And now we also have to set up our y-axis. So let's also see, it's based on a 1-year performance, but let's just say we want to look at it on a 6-month performance and see how that's done. So let's choose that on the y-axis. Now, the other thing that you're going to do, similar to the title cards we had on the heat map, you can choose to see how the bubbles are sized. So the bubble sizing right now is based on market capitalization. We can do it on volume, etc. Some of the other ones here. I'm good to leave it on market capitalization over here. And then we can also choose to color code it based on the sector. So you'll notice there's a legend at the bottom here. So anything in this kind of bluish color is energy, technologies in green, basic materials, etc. You can see there's different color codings that represent which sectors that they are part of. Now, once you come in here, you'll notice, well, the one that kind of sticks out is we have a 60% growth on the 6-month performance. That's on our y-axis here, as we can see. And it's also kind of on the bottom rung of the sales. So if I actually click on CCO, which is Chemical Group Corp, I can see the details on it. So 1.87 billion in sales is what it shows you there. It's about a 60.72% run up in the last 6 months there, with a market cap of about 25 billion. So it's kind of a little bit of a smaller bubble there. If we look and hover over E&B, for example, they're underperformance, so they lost about 12% from our data there, what it shows, but they have 97.99 billion in market capitalization, with sales annually of about 53.31 billion there. So it's a pretty neat way you can compare different statistics and metrics when you're looking at various stocks. So I would encourage everyone to definitely try these out. It's a fantastic tool to be able to really hone in on a bit of that analysis. Now, also, don't forget, we have not only those sectors, again, that we looked at, and not only those indices, but you, again, can compare it on a breakdown basis there as well. So don't forget that. Let's say we want to look at some of the US sectors, or we want to look at some of the Canadian sectors or gold stocks, for example. Let's look at the Canadian gold companies that show up here. We can also do that on a sector basis within here. All right. So that's a little bit about the bubble charts that we have for our markets view. Now, to close off our session today, we're going to show you just how to automate these things. If you find that it's a little bit challenging to build these on yourself or not really sure how you should do it, well, we have preset custom builds, and that's what we're going to show you next. All right, traders, to round up our session, we wanted to show you how you can just automate this market view if you're not really inclined to building it for yourself, or you want at least a building block to kind of help you get started. So there are some preset, pre-built layouts there for us. So if we go out to our layout manager up here in the top right corner, and we click on this, and we're on the second tab that says layout library. Now you can notice within here, there's a number of these different layouts that are already built for you. And the one that we're going to draw everyone's attention to is the market pulse. Now what you can do is, it's going to be a little bit hard, but you can open up this magnifier. It'll give you a little bit of a preview as to what this layout looks like and what kind of widgets are housed within this. But we can simply add it to really explore what it's all about there. So let's click off of it there. And by just clicking on it, you can see it highlights the tile, and we can go to click add layout. Now it's automatically done in the background, so don't look for any confirmation. Let's go ahead and click the X, and you'll see it's already labeled right there at the end, and it's called Market Pulse. Now what you have, it's kind of similar to what we've been working at. They're using a grid layout, so there's a separator here that kind of breaks it up in this 2-column view. And then there's a number of different tabs or widgets that are housed within these 2 different columns. You can see the bubble chart, which we just explored. There's the heat map, the most active stocks, the markets, market news. So let's look at that. One of the things that's neat about getting this pre-built layout is that it's already configured with the linking settings there for you automatically. So let's just say, for example, we click on the heat map and we were to click on one of these companies, BIR. What you'll notice over to the right-hand side, the chart widget already will be linked, and therefore it'll load up the BIR there for us. All right, so the linking is done for you. And if we go to the market news, what they've done is, let's go ahead and open this for a second. Over here, what you're going to notice is that they've already put in the major indexes and kind of did a consolidated view in the markets there for you. So you don't need to type in each one individually yourself. It's already ready to go there. And this is one I do like, this view just as a tab, just so that if I want to look at the markets, everything's ready-made and ready to go out of the box there. The only thing I want to do is maybe just configure the view on the news layout. So maybe I want to have that vertical view where I can see the headlines next to each other. Now, they've also added an earnings calendar. We won't cover the earnings calendar in this session. We are going to be covering under our research section when we get to that in the class. So be on the lookout for that. But they do also include that in here to just give you a quick view on which companies are releasing earnings. And then you can scroll down at the bottom to see those actual detailed numbers and what the expectation is on those earnings there. All right. So from here, you can see that apart from this, we've covered a majority of these widgets, and we'll leave some of this for our next section. But this is a pre-built layout that you can go into. Now from here, don't forget you are able to change the labeling on here. So if I go to the hamburger menu, I can choose to rename this. Instead of calling it Market Pulse, I can call it anything else that I want to. So we can just go ahead and cancel for a second. And you can also choose to remove widgets. So let's say I don't feel the earnings calendar really fits in this view for me. Well, I'm going to simply hit remove, and it's out of there as well. All right. So you can make these customizations and really use this as a stepping stone or a building block to then kind of tweak it the way you'd like and according to your preferences when you're getting to trading. All right, traders, and that's a look at how to set up the markets on Advanced Dashboard. Thank you for joining me in this session. Please be sure to check out the rest of the classes as part of this Advanced Dashboard Masterclass series. You'll see those again found within the Learn section at the top, and those are available on demand to view at any time. And until then, we'll see you in our next session.